trust me, I get it. You're feeling the pressure to keep your faith separate from your work, worried that pursuing your God-given dreams might be seen as selfish or misguided. Here's what I've discovered. Our faith isn't a liability in our leadership. As a matter of fact, it's the source of our strength and wisdom. The real challenge is navigating how to boldly pursue our purpose while staying anchored in our faith. And that's exactly what the Beacon Show is all about. Each week, we bring you biblical wisdom and practical strategies from true beacons, Christian leaders who are illuminating the world. And it's also that you can let your light shine brighter and brighter. I'm Tamara Jackson, and this is The Beacon Show.
Life is full of transitions. So my guest today has gone from the football field to the silver screen, from Austin to Hollywood. Julius Tennon's journey is a testament to the power of perseverance, faith, and the audacity to dream beyond boundaries. As the first African American to graduate from the University of Tulsa's theater department, Julius has been breaking barriers his entire life. But it's not just about being the first or the only for Julius. It's about opening doors and creating pathways for others to follow. Today, we sit down with a man who wears many hats: actor, producer, businessman, and most recently, publisher. But perhaps his most important role is that of a visionary, someone who sees beyond the present limitations to a future full of possibility. In an industry often criticized for its lack of diversity, Julius and his powerhouse wife, Viola Davis, have become a force for change. Their production company, Juvie Productions, isn't just about creating content. It's literally rewriting narratives and reshaping how stories are told and who gets to tell them. But don't let this impressive resume fool you. At his core, Julius is a man driven by faith, guided by purpose, and dedicated to lifting others as he climbs. His story is a masterclass in turning personal success into collective progress. So join me as we explore the mind of a man who's not content with just making it to the top. He's determined to bring others along for the ride. From the keys to a lasting partnership in love and business, to the power of prayer in manifesting dreams, to the importance of authentic representation in media, my friend Julius Tennon is here to share wisdom that transcends the entertainment industry and speaks to the heart of what it means to lead with purpose. This is Julius Tennon's story, a story of faith, fortitude, and the fierce determination to make a difference. Enjoy. Julius, welcome to the Beacon Show, where wisdom meets faith and success finds its voice. I am so honored that you have taken time out of your schedule to be here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's so much that I'm bursting at the seams, so many things that I want to talk about, and I probably won't get to everything, but that's okay. But I want to start, I was looking over your biography, and something stood out to me. You went to school on a football scholarship. Did I get that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I'm curious, were you thinking when you were a kid that I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be a football star? I'm going to go to the NFL. What was kind of the thought process? What did you want to be?
Well, I think, listen, I loved sports growing up, and I always thought it was a path. I mean, if I could be good enough in school, then maybe I could get a scholarship. My family didn't have much money, but kind of wanted to go to college and knew it would be difficult. I mean, I'd probably have to get student loans like most students do. But I just happened to be gifted enough to be a good enough football player to get scholarships. And then I was an actor. I started with prose and poetry in the seventh grade. And then the seminal Martin Luther King "I Have a Dream" speech I learned in 1968, prior to Dr. King being assassinated. Obviously, I studied that speech, and it became everything for me. And it kind of anybody that knows me from 1967 on knows that I've been in this business and wanted to be an actor and all that, but it started with prose and poetry.
So talk to us about this. Like, do you feel like it was something
that you were born with, this just innate desire to want to express yourself through prose and storytelling, or did it kind of evolve?
You know, I just fell in love with it because I started, in the seventh grade. I was a stage manager. But then I was looking at the other kids up on the stage and I was thinking, I'm an outgoing person. I can do this. I could be up there and I could be performing because I love the spoken word. So I love being at a podium with a mic, doing it formally, and actually not being very familiar with the poems and those kinds of things, but not actually memorizing them. So you could have effect, and you could use the paper, and you could use the podium to, express these beautiful words. And so it was, it just felt natural. It just felt natural that I do this. And then I started eighth grade. My first time when I got on stage, and then from then on, it's been always,
It's been always.
always. My stage is my first love.
Hmm. And we'll talk about your other love a little bit later in our conversation. We can't leave her out. But fell in love with it, realized that you had the potential to actually be on stage. And so if I understand this correctly, you were the only person like in these theater classes while you were in college. What was that like for you?
Well, it was very interesting because I got a lot of scholarship offers after I went to junior college. I went to junior college. And then after that, I was trying to figure out where I was going to go. Then I got, I was a pretty good football player. So I got a lot of offers all across the country. And as I was thinking about those offers, I was thinking about places where they would allow me to be able to do theater and also play football. And to be honest with you, a lot of the schools, the bigger schools, were more interested in just, hey, listen, if you're a good football player, we're recruiting you because we want you to play football. We're not so interested in this drama stuff you want to do. But if you want to do that, you could do that. I went to a school that said, hey, listen, we want you to have the education you want and be involved in theater if you want and play football. And that was Tulsa University. When I went there, that the theater was brand new. The plastic was still on those 360 seats in that proscenium stage. And I saw that stage and I just could imagine myself on that stage. And the fact that they were invested in me enough, not just as a ball player, but as somebody who had a dream and who had a passion for acting, to have that opportunity. So being the only Black didn't really hinder me at the University of Tulsa. It became an asset because God had blessed me, and the teachers saw it. And so it gave me all the many opportunities that I had there to perform. So it was beautiful. It was beautiful the way it worked out.
Hmm. So were there ever any moments where you felt lonely, Julius, or what was your mindset as you were going through all those years being the only African American?
Well, I think in the department, when you're the only. And, and then you have some people who aren't for you. You kind of recognize that, but you don't dwell on that. And the fact that I had all my boys, all my brothers, and Tulsa University was a predominantly white university, more private, but Division I, but private, very expensive school to get into. And I was on an athletic scholarship, so I had my brothers as my allies, and even pulled a few of them in and got a couple of them involved in some productions and things that they thought they'd never do. Had many of them come to see plays. Many of them hadn't actually been to a formal play, but because I was doing it, they were like, "Man, JT, you." And then I was always a leader in football. I was a spokesperson for the team and all those things. So I've always had those kind of leadership qualities that God had blessed me with, and so it was. I did feel lonely sometimes, but had a lot of good friendships, and the fact that the professors and the head of the department really really took care of me in a great way. I weathered through the times when it was a little bit tougher because of my boys.
Yeah. So I noticed that as you were sharing your story, that you reached back and exposed other people to theater, those that didn't have interactions with it. It sounds like it wasn't on their radar. What made you do that? Like, why was that important for you to expose them?
Well, because so many of them, it was so interesting because so many of those guys, they didn't understand that. They didn't understand my passion for it. And because they weren't familiar with theater and all that, they were interested in kind of just being there and seeing how could you do that? How could you embody another person? And how could you be on stage and be in front of all these people and be able to do that? And so I just would always say, just come over, just come watch rehearsals for a little bit. And sometimes they'd watch for a little bit. Sometimes they'd razz me when I was up there. Then the professor who was doing the play would say, guys, you can't do that. He's on stage. You can't talk to him while he's on stage. These guys couldn't understand that I could totally detach. And no matter what they were doing out there, I could just stay in character. And that blew them away, but it also endeared them to me in a way because I was exposing them to something that they hadn't been exposed to before, legit theater. And so it was fun. It was fun, and they learned a lot. And so it was really great.
Yeah. So you end up completing your time at the University of Tulsa. What happens next?
Well, what happens next is, you finally have to decide what is it I'm going to do. It's like, and the three words, and now what? You know what I mean? I think that's the words. That's the words of the day. And now what? I knew I knew I wanted to pursue this profession, but then at that time I had a child and had a wife, and so and then I went to the American College Theater Festival that the year after I graduated, and I was offered a master's degree and to go for a master's degree in acting at the SMU and LSU and Louisville Theater, the Eugene O'Neill Theater, some of the top theaters, what they call the elite theaters at that time. Northwestern, I could have went straight for scholarships, just strictly acting. I was still thinking I was going to have the potential to play pro football. That was kind of an aspiration of mine as well. And so I just decided, you know what? It's time for me to hone down on this thing and decide that I'm going to really focus on this and give it a shot.
Wow. So what did that look like for you? Did that mean I'm not taking any other jobs? I'm just focusing on trying to get my first big break? Because everybody's path is a little bit different. What did that look like for you?
Well, for me, it looked like you got to go to work. You got to get a job. While you're trying to pursue this acting, and especially when you're starting out, no matter how much talent you have, you always have to think about the bottom line. If you have a family, it's like keeping the roof over our heads, keeping food on the table and clothes on our backs, and then pursuing the career. God blesses us if we pay attention to the things that we need to focus on first. It's always God first, but then your family, and then you have your career. And then, and I was really serious about it, but I knew that out the gate, I wasn't going to just all of a sudden become a star, or it was never my aspiration to become a star. It was always for me, and it still is. It's about the work, and anything that happens because of the work is truly a blessing. So you just kind of move where you need to move. It's like my mom used to say, you're in the world, but you don't have to be of the world. You're in Hollywood, but you don't have to be of Hollywood. And so that's kind of how I've always navigated myself. It's kind of how I'm going to move, what makes sense. Uh, and what made sense was for me to work and just kind of keep pursuing.
Mm. So how long did it take, if you could walk us through it, from you making this decision, I'm gonna hunker down, I'm gonna pursue this while I'm working to take care of my family. How long did it take before you got your first kind of big break?
I came out of the University of Tulsa in 1978. I actually was there a year longer because I had a serious knee injury that ended my pro football aspirations. And so I set out a year, my senior year after I got injured. I set out a year, then I came back to the university and finished up. And then it took, and I stayed in Tulsa probably 2 or 3 years after that. I was building manager of the theater department at that time. I had sued the university at that time because I some stuff came up with my knee and them using dirty equipment and all that. That didn't turn out to be what I had hoped it would turn out to be. It would have been right for them to take care of me and compensate me, but I, that's a whole nother story. And God is taking care of me. So, but I just continued on my path. And so it was several years after I left the University of Tulsa, got back to Texas, Austin, Texas, where I'm from, started doing theater. And then, it's just one thing. And in the early mid 80s, things start happening in film and TV. And all of a sudden, I became the big cheese in Texas. And then because Hollywood was coming to Texas, I was living in Austin. I would go to Dallas and Houston to audition for stuff. I started getting a lot of stuff, and people in Hollywood started seeing me in Texas doing the work I was doing. So it became very fruitful for me in Texas. And then in '93, December of '93, I said, you know what? It's time for me to hijack. Wanted to always go to New York because stage was my passion. But then in '93, I said, you know what? I was 39. I said, I got to go to LA now. And I had two children. I had a 3.5-year-old, a 1.5-year-old, and I had to I had to make some choices. And I was married to my wife at the time, and we decided to come to California, and that's kind of how it started. So it was really, I've always been having success along the way, even when I was in Texas doing theater and getting in productions that were equity productions so I could make money as an actor. So I've been offered to do theater all across the country and that kind of thing, but I never got to take advantage of that, having two children. So I had to have a formal job, be there. But in my job as a juvenile probation officer, I always service. I always want to do something for kids. I always want to try to be an example for them. And so it was very fruitful for me to be in Austin, uh, do the theater. And then when all the film and TV started coming, I was sitting there and it was just like, it was fantastic because I was right there and things were happening. So I was kind of going, wow, God is just laying it out right in front of me right here. And so God said, you know what? You got your children, but do what's at your hand to do. It's always like, what's right now? What can you grab? And so right now I can grab this. This makes sense. And so that's what I did. I stayed there and just did a lot of theater, then started doing TV, started doing film and things like and blah, blah, blah. And then in December '93, I hijacked it out here and I've been out here ever since. So, it's kind of one of those things where you just kind of have to keep going. It's like laying the bricks. It's like laying the foundation. It's one brick at a time, just one brick at a time. And then you finally arrive and then you come out and you feel like you deserve it. You're worth it. You're worth it to yourself. I always say, hey, I'm worth it to give myself a shot. And so that's what I did. And here I am 30 years later, still in the business, still acting, some producing and giving opportunity where we can and what makes sense. So it's been a beautiful journey and it's not over. It's not over. It's not over, and there's still lots of work to be done. But I always think about the next generation. I always think about what you can give away so much, but you can't outgive God. And that's what I say. The more you give, the more that comes back. The windows just keep getting filled up. All you have to do is open them and just give those blessings. And you don't have to ask God for any of that stuff back. God's just going to give it to you because He knows your heart. I always think about a heart.
So you are now focused on, I've heard you say this and I love it, is the next generation.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the work that you're now doing to impact the next generation.
Yeah, listen, at Juvie Productions, our whole mantra is, dream, dream big, dream fierce. Um, we've always been about, when we started this company, it started out of deference for Viola's career because we knew what was in the Hollywood pipeline. I knew that we needed to help that. And the only way that was going to change is if we were going to be the change we wanted to see. And if you want to be the change you want to see, you have a talent at the level as God has blessed Viola, and then you see what's not happening, then it only makes sense for you to say, you know what? We got to step this up. We got to do something to make this dream a reality for her. Then it became bigger than that. Then it became about, well, Viola can't do every project. We knew that, but we certainly wanted to set her on a path. where she would have more opportunity, that we would be creating more of these things, that we would be talking to other creators who are interested in helping Viola's career grow, and that we could do things together. And so it's always been about, you know, that. And then it became, you know what? We gotta put our foot in the door for others. We gotta give a hand where there is no hand. We gotta make a phone call for somebody. Everything ain't money. Out here, it's industry referrals and that influence, and where much is given, much is required, right? So you have a lot. So then we have to learn how to help one another, help people of color, because there's always a deficit there. A lot of awfully talented people, and it's awfully hard sometimes for those most talented people to get in. And obviously, we're not out to save the world. It's not anything about that, but it's about having the right kind of mindset, having the right kind of heart, and looking at who it is that are needing to be lifted, and then giving a helping hand. And then I always say to them, listen, what I do for you, I want you to do for somebody, because it's all of these links is how we link up that's going to keep things going. That's how we're going to build legacy, but we have to build it by one up, one up, one up. We have to keep doing that. That's the only way that change is going to come. And change is slow, and we get setbacks, but we should never deter from helping one another and trying to be a conduit for one another.
So this started out, and I remember reading this as a way to make sure that Viola got more opportunities. But that it's often the case, right? Is that we're doing something, we think that it's just for one purpose, but then God reveals that there's a bigger purpose and a bigger plan to it. So then you realize, hey, I can help other people. So I want to dig into this a little bit, Julius. Why is it so important for there to be a diversity of um, roles that are available for people of color and other underrepresented communities? Why is it important for people to see in film, TV, et cetera, people that look like them? Why do you think that's important?
Well, it's important because, we're 14%, as African Americans, about 14% of the population. Then we look at our Hispanic brothers who make up another percentage, and then people from everywhere in the country that are people of color. And it's important that we see our images, because oftentimes in Hollywood, images can be negative, they can be stereotypical. And we're always trying to look at things from a more elevated perspective, a more prestige perspective, that we're not all monoliths, so we're not all the same, but that our stories deserve to be told. And if I want to tell a story about this cup, then let's tell the story about the cup, and let's just have a conversation like you and I are having. And it doesn't have to be about T and A. It doesn't have to be slapstick. It doesn't have to be these things. And there's nothing wrong with any of that, but I think time out for the stereotypes. And so for us, it's always been about how can we do any genre. We're not genre allergic to anything, but we just want to do it elevated, and we want to see people of color respected and seen as human, because oftentimes that's the hardest thing to get around. And you can get a lot of regurgitation in Hollywood of the same thing, or you've seen it. It's a little bit different, but it's kind of the same thing. And so we're not going to change the wheel. You can't change genres, but what you can do is elevate them. You can make them shine in a different way, and make people be able to look at us in a different way and go, wow, oh, wow, I never thought about that. Because oftentimes, uh, you know, the general public can look at people of color, especially Black folks, and be surprised. And I always think you shouldn't be surprised. We're human too. So that's what we're just trying to level that playing field to say, this is who we are. This is how we want it. This is who we are. This is what we want to do. And this is how we want to do it. And so I think that's honorable and admirable. And so that's what we strive for.
I love the word that you use there, elevate, right? So and even you shared, hey, I can't change the whole industry, but what I can do, it sounds like is your thought process is let me add to the conversation by showing a different viewpoint where people of color are living life differently than maybe what we see often in TV and movies. And your goal is to be able to show that there's more than one side. There's more than one way that we can contribute, right?
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about how you decide though, because you can't do everything. How do you decide what types of projects to really get behind?
Well, that's a process. Listen, it all starts with, you know, who you doing business with. What are they bringing you? People are submitting scripts for Viola, or they're just submitting scripts to the company. And we always look at what our mission statement is, and it's about the broad spectrum of humanity. And it's about narratives where we do show people of color in you know just as they are, as we are, just unabashed in who we are. Um, but with an elevated kind of thing to it. And so listen, we're in a deal with Amazon on the film side. We have been these 6 years in December on the film side. On the TV side, we're in a deal with Lionsgate now. It started out with E1, but then E1, Hasbro sold E1 to Lionsgate. So now we're finishing up our last year. In December, we'll finish our deal with Lionsgate, and hopefully we'll be on to another deal. So how we decide these things based on our mission statement, obviously based on what the companies are looking for, and once we know what the company's looking for, then we try to bring those type of projects to bear. And because these deals are what they call first look deals, these are deals that you bring it in if they like it and say, hey, we think we might want to develop that, or we want to put that in the queue to develop, then cool. But they might say, you know what, we got something else like that. Another team's brought something like that, and they pass. And then when they pass on it, if we love it, if we have the money, or if we have other partners who are interested in it, then we can take it out and we come together. And then it starts there. It starts with coming together with folks, and I always say God first, then you become a team. I'm a team guy. I don't have much. I have an ego, but I don't have much of an ego. I don't much care for ego. What I care about is people. And what I care about is being a team and working together for the goal. My analogy is this script that we're trying to create is a baby. Okay. And so you have to get the baby ready to take out on the town to try to sell it. And so in that process, the people that you're working with, you become family, you become close. And our goal is to get this script good enough so it's at least 70%, 70 to 75% ready. If it's more than that, good. Nothing's perfect. But we got to get it at least 70, 75% before we can even take it out anywhere in Hollywood. Then we take it out, and then we try to get this baby set up at a studio or a streamer or wherever it's going to be. And so that's kind of how the process works in terms of how we look at material. And, you get a whole lot more material that you're not going to do than you're going to do. And right now it's a contraction in the business, so it's a lot harder. So you really have to take things in that a studio would really be interested in. And then if you have monies and some things you just want to do yourself, then you have to be willing to take those things on, put the financings behind it, put it together, put a great team together, because it's all about team. I'm telling you, all the way down the line, from when you're starting in that creative process with the other producers, you know, to taking it and then setting it up with whatever studio, and then beyond that, getting your line producer and all your people in line and try to come out with the best product, because there's so much competition. And we're not talking about just US anymore. We're talking global. This is global now. And so we have to make sure that we're hitting marks. We have to make sure that we can get these movies distributed where people of color live. so they can have access to see it. Because you asked me a question earlier about kind of about that, how you get things to, we have to do it because people of color always feel at a deficit. There's never enough content out there. And what better than seeing yourself or seeing other people of color go through things, uh, and you're able to glean something from that content. And that's why it's so important. It's not like what we do is rocket science, but it's important the work we do, because it can set the table for people in their everyday lives to get away from the humdrum of whatever's going on. That's what it is, to leave people less alone. That's what we do. We do this work to leave people less alone. So you relate somehow to for that 2 hours, that hour and 40 minutes, whatever it is, with that character, and you go, wow. And you glean something from that that you can take with you. It's always just like, what are you taking away from something? That's what I'm always thinking about. So that's kind of our process, you know, of how we decide what we're going to do, what we decide what we're not going to do, and yeah.
I love your statement to leave people less alone. I don't know that I've thought about entertainment in that way. It's that it's literally a way for people to see themselves in other people's experiences. I know that I've watched things and I could identify with the person, the actor on the screen, and it did create this sense of connection, but I don't know that I've actually thought about it from the standpoint of being less alone. And you never know what people are going through, the experiences that they're navigating, and your productions literally can help them to have a sense of connection
A
and
sense of connection,
understand.
a sense of escape for those
Yeah.
2 hours, because life we're living every second. If we're breathing, we're living life. You can't capture that second that just left. The 2 minutes ago we talked about, that's gone, but here we are. And so people need to be out of their lives for a lot of different reasons, whatever, and entertainment can do that. That's the task, that's the goal, is to do something that's worthy enough so people can go to work and they're around the water cooler and they say, did you see this thing? And they go, well, I didn't. Well, let me tell you about it. You just, and so for me it's always really important just to do things so people can have a conversation around it, or feel like that hour and a half, 2 hours was time well spent, watching this thing, because there's so much choice out there. There's so many things people can watch. There's, there's a plethora of things, and you just always want to make sure we want to make sure that we're putting content out there, whether it's film, whether it's TV, whether it's a documentary or whatever, something that's going to draw people in.
I want to talk about, Julia, something you mentioned earlier. It's a word it's one of my favorite ones, and it's because I think it keeps us honest. And the word that you used was competition. Um, it's a reality of life that there is, whether we like to admit it or not, there people have to make decisions about what they're going to get on board with and what they're not. Talk to us about how the fact that there is competition shapes the way that you do business. How does it factor in?
Well, competition is a way of life, right? Everybody likes whoever's number one. you know, it's uh, it's just part of the fabric of life, right? And so, you think about it, and people are out there doing the same thing you're doing every day, trying to get things sold, trying to get, because we sell a lot. You sell a lot. That doesn't mean you're going to get a green light. Now, you could be with a project 4 years or whatever, but competition is just part of it. So when you're going into these things, you always want to think you're going into it with the best intentions, knowing that you're going to have, you could sell it and it still might not get picked up. Somebody could have something very similar to your thing, and your thing could be just as good, but then it doesn't get picked up. And then you have to keep going. The thing about competition is it drives you to keep going, because you don't know when you're going to strike fire. All you do is just keep going. You keep going, you keep doing it. And you have to love this stuff. You can't think, oh, I'm going to be famous. Oh, I'm going to be this. You just have to love it. Competition is kind of a healthy part of life. You fall down, you're going to stay down, you're going to get up. I'm getting up, and we're going to keep moving. So that's just that's the way it is. That's the way I look at it. It's not rocket science, it's competition and it's fierce. And so that's why you have to be really focused and really, really um, on point with what it is that you're trying to, put out there in the marketplace, and then hopefully hope it finds a home or a place to live.
Mm. How do you maintain? Because I just sense this bubbly, energetic vibe from you. How do you stay so positive in an industry that I'm sure has its share of ups and downs?
My faith keeps me, you know, grounded. See, I always say God's not complicated. We are. I know that when I ask God, that request is fulfilled. I don't have to continue to ask because God knows my heart. And so I just keep moving. Uh, and, that's what sustains me. And I just love people and I love my staff. It's like my family when I'm here with them. And what we're trying to do together collectively fuels me, and obviously my own wife fuels me just from who she is and her voice. And I see how she handles herself out there. Uh, and so there's a lot of things that become the quotient for success when you know God's there. You just gonna do this thing, and you know that if this door closes, that means another one's gonna open, and if it doesn't open, then you're gonna find a way to open this door. It's always about how do you keep moving. The turtle may be slow, but he just keeps going. He just keeps going. And I think that's the thing in those dark times, because we all have them. Nothing's perfect. Listen, it happens, and you contemplate, you have reflection, you have some things you wonder, why is this thing not working? Why? But well, you know what? At the end of the day, you do all you can. I'm gonna give out before I give up. So we're gonna keep working this as long as we can work it. And then once it shows itself not to be the thing that we should focus on, then set it aside, because it may come back, it may not. But set that aside and then get on to the next task, because you can't just stay stuck. Because sometimes we can get stuck, especially in this industry. You love something so much and you really want to see it, and you just stay stuck and it's not really moving. And you can set aside some things that may have an opportunity to move. And so it's always what's moving, what's not for me. It's like if things are moving, I'd rather just I love this. I'm gonna put it on the side. It's not going anywhere, but this other thing is happening. So this is happening, and this is solid, but this is happening. And so that's how I am able to kind of keep myself fluid and all that, because it's God, and in all of His simplicity. God is looking at us, and you know, and He's waiting for us. He's waiting to see what we gonna do once we ask. Once you ask Him, God's sitting back going, "Okay, so what you gonna do?"
I love that. Sometimes it's like sometimes you talk to people and it seems like they're putting it all on God, but you're raising a really good point. It's a partnership, right? So what is it that we are doing to partner with God to make things happen?
What is your faith? What you're asking. Then ask, and ye shall receive. If we're going to be with God, we have to believe that we're going to be blessed of God. So I just keep it simple, and He just keeps on showing up.
Mhm, mhm. Well, I've definitely heard this theme during our conversation of keeping God first. So I know that that's huge for you. I want to talk a little bit about the partnership that you have with your wife, Viola. Talk to us. I was reading an article about how you guys met, and I was like, "Oh, there is hope. There is hope for those of us that are later in life." So talk to us about how you guys met.
Well, it's the most auspicious meeting. Obviously, we met in 1999. We were on the TV show City of Angels with Blair Underwood and Vivica Fox, and Viola was a series regular as a nurse, Lynette Peeler. I was recurring as Dr. James Holly, an anesthesiologist. And I can remember when I first met Viola on the set, I was passing a pack of blood. I had the mask on, so you couldn't see anything except eyes. And so she just seemed like a really nice lady. Just working with her and just talking to her, because people are from everywhere, but you don't know where people are from. If she's from L.A., where is she from? She's from New York. Is she from wherever she could be from? And I can remember we were standing in a line, uh, and then I was like, wonder where she's from, and I'd like to give her my information so maybe we could get to know each other a little better. And so I did, and I gave her my card. And then she called me a little bit later after that. And then we went on our first date almost 25 years ago. And here we are, 21 years married, but almost in October 6th, it'll be 25 years this October the 6th together. So she had prayed for somebody like me. I didn't know about her prayer. And I just prayed, honestly, that I would find somebody that loved God more than they love themselves. That's what I was looking for this time. Because this is my third marriage. I was married to my first wife with my two children for 7 years. And I was married to my wife, who was an attorney, for 7 years. And I literally was thinking, do I have the 7 year itch? What is this thing? These 7 years? What? I I want to go longer than that. And you never want to get divorced, but sometimes things just don't work out in life, and you have to forgive yourself for those things, and then you have to allow people to go, or you have to allow yourself to go. You have to release yourself so you can have your happiness. It's always about taking care of your heart, because your heart is yours. And if we don't take care of this, then you can't do anything else, because this kind of affects everything else, you know. And we all go through brokenheartedness and all those things, but you know, you work through and you figure it out.
Hmm. So you started this courtship
We
with
started this
Viola.
courtship, and then it became so beautiful. It just became the courtship with Viola was beautiful. It was easy, and she's always been who she is. Who she is now is who I met 25 years ago. Is the same person I know today, and how we handle ourselves and how we handle our business. And oftentimes people in Hollywood will say to me, "Well, man, how can you be? Your wife is so famous, or she's so this." She doesn't think about any of that. I don't think about any of that, because what I would tell any man, as successful as your wife is, your job, our job, is to support our wives. The wife's job is to support you. If you know who you are, then she's going to know who you are. It's not difficult. It's just allowing the other person to be who they are and support them. They allow you to be who you are, and then they support you. Marriages aren't perfect. Ours isn't perfect, but there's a lot of respect. This thing right here, you got to watch how you use it. And these big ears, you got to listen. And sometimes you have to walk away and come back. But somebody's always got to be the one to say, I'm sorry or apologize. Uh, and what I've learned is that you can't carry yesterday into today. So it's always good to do your best to resolve that thing. And a lot of times with Viola and me, it's like it comes with laughter after some silly thing happens between us, but never disparaging, and none of that physical stuff. You do that, then you're on a road to no return. And so it's always been a mutual respect with Viola and I. And we just don't have a lot of issues with how the money flows and how all that stuff. I take care of a lot of things, and my wife has entrusted me with a lot of things, and I share back with my wife. And so we've developed a kind of relationship where it's a relationship that's built on trust and built on support. because I think people underestimate support, and especially support for Black women. A lot of times our sisters just don't get the kind of support they need. And I'm just saying to you, brothers out there, support your women. And they're going to support you. I mean, women and Black women in particular have always been integral in our families, in our lives. And I think in this day and time, it takes more than one salary. Sometimes it takes both. And you can't say, oh, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. Do it together. It's about together. If you're together, be together on all of it. The finances on all of it. You got to be together on all of it. Try to figure out ways to be together on all of it, because that's just going to make your relationship that much better and that much closer, because you're actually communicating. Communication is the key. Once we shut this off, then that's when things can just kind of start. And then you start using this the wrong way. And listen, you can be forgiven, but that person doesn't have to forget. You must always keep that in mind. And so that's how we roll. That's how we just kind of keep navigating life. And I say, if you're talking to Viola about me, she knows me. And if you're talking to me about Viola, I know Viola. And so it works that way for us. It's been nothing but beautiful, in work and play, and a lot of laughing. Most people out there don't know, but Viola's an introvert. She really is. I mean, listen, Viola is about the work. She's about the work. The publicity and all that red carpet stuff is so much not so much her thing. So when I'm out there with her and you see me with my hand on her back, it's only to comfort her, because she'd rather be at home watching TV or in her massage chair and not in makeup. so, so that's what I do. I'm just there to support my wife and vice versa. So it works for us.
I love that because I think what you're also illustrating for us, Julius, is that it's okay for a woman to have a really prominent career, have all of this. It doesn't take anything away from you in order for her to walk in that light, and that you're able to come alongside. And I love the word that you use, support that. And it's not a threat. There's no who's in charge type of thing. It really sounds like you guys have figured out how to flow together and to be able to be what each other needs, so that collectively you guys are able to impact the world in a bigger way. Is that a fair statement?
That's totally a fair statement. It's about that together piece, together in mind and spirit and soul, and that's how we move. And uh, it's just easy. It's easier when you're in accord with each other, when you move together. It's better to move together if you're together.
I'm curious, Julius, are there any routines? Because you've shared with us a lot of wisdom around the business side of it. I'm curious if there are any routines that you and Viola have to keep yourselves so connected that might be able to help our viewing, listening audience, that they want to stay together for all these years like you guys have. How do you guys keep that part of it strong?
Well, we do a lot of things together. We just listen. We love to be together. So we work out together. I mean, we're really at it. I mean, we stay at it. We stay physical. We walk our dog. I mean, sometimes I'm walking him in the morning by myself. Sometimes we're walking in tandem. Sometimes we're doing it at night. She does it, then I do it. And we're jacuzzi people. I'm sorry. We just love our jacuzzi time, anytime we can get it, and anywhere. And so we share those things together. So there's a lot of things that we share together that keeps us kind of connected to one another. And then we often go off into quiet time, because she needs quiet time to break away to work on something if she's working on something, or if she's reading. She's a big reader. I read too. She reads probably more than me, but she doesn't read as much as she used to because of the work. But so we just kind of balance it out, but we spend a lot of time together, and we enjoy spending time together because it doesn't feel like it's a burden to be together.
I love it. I love it. Does it ever get to a point where it's a lot to juggle both personal and professional for you guys? Or was there ever a time where it was a lot and you had to work through it?
No, it's you know that's a good question. Working through it and juggling is part of this profession, especially once you get to an elevated level. Uh, there again, where much is given, much is required. So you have to figure it out. You have to prioritize correctly and try to not overwork yourself because you can kind of be on a 24-hour clock and sometimes you just have to turn it off. And so that's why I'd rather be here in the office and work than be at home because COVID kept a lot of us at home for a long time. Then the strikes happened and all that stuff. And people are just now starting to get back. Buildings aren't at the capacity they used to be. And the building I'm in now used to be 100% capacity before COVID, pre-COVID. Since COVID and then the strike, all that stuff, now this building is 40% occupancy. Things have changed a lot. People are using Zoom and all these different platforms to be able to do what we're doing today. I mean, 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do this. Now you can do it. So people can work from home. They can work from wherever. Somebody could be in a restaurant in a quiet space doing this conversation right now. So things have really shifted around the way you can work and the way you do things. So, you just adjust and adapt.
So what do you see as the future? What are you guys focused on next in your production work?
Well, what we have a movie that we shot in Cape Town, South Africa last year. The strike hit us, then we went back. We finished up this past February, and it's going to come out hopefully late January, early February, maybe. Film called G20. Viola is the president of the United States, and it's really an exciting kind of like female diehard. So everybody get ready. Viola with her AK-47 and the hijinks of all that goes on when she takes her family with her, and then things kind of get out of sorts because this baddie is trying to disrupt the together plan that our president is bringing forth to the other 19 G20 countries, and so it's going to be quite fun. It's going to live on Amazon Prime. Hopefully, we're going to get a theatrical release. We're not sure yet because so many things now going straight platform. So Viola would prefer it just go straight platform so she doesn't have to worry about box office. But we're not sure what it's going to be, but we know it's going to be exciting. Anything Viola is doing and is in is always going to be exciting and worth watching. So we're in. At the moment, we're editing and doing all that stuff, and we're getting ready for some friends and family screening soon. And then the film will come out early sometime next year. Not sure yet, but looking forward to it.
Yes, that is exciting. I can't wait to see. When you were describing it, I was like, wow. I can almost see her.
We have various other projects on the TV side. On the immersive and interactive side, that's when you're in the goggles. Right now, we're working on a 5-minute piece called Silver, and it's about Jackie Robinson's brother, Mac Robinson. He came in second to Jesse Owens in the 1936 Berlin Olympics. So we're creating a 5-minute proof of concept. And then we want to expand that out to 15 minutes because in the goggles, you usually can stay 10, 15 minutes. And now it's so photo real now, you feel like you're literally there. You feel like you're there and you'll see Hitler and the whole 9 yards. So it's like really exciting. So that's what we're working on in the immersive thing. And then we got a couple of games, and then TV, we got Octavia Butler's Wild Seed that we're still working on, been massaging for quite a while. And we're hoping that within the next year or so, that's going to finally push through. And then we have another Asian epic called Rise of the Empress that's really amazing. And it seems a little bit more fast tracked. We haven't gotten the green light yet, but it's the kind of big genre piece that Amazon is looking for. So we're hoping that one gets through. So there's lots of really, and then we got 2 butterflies about 2 sisters, one that has dementia. The older sister has taken her, a tragic event happened, but then it breaks them apart. Then the younger sister gets dementia. Then they come back together. Then you have some flashbacks of when they were young, but they're on this road trip in Atlanta to the hospital. The older sister recalling memories, coming back together. It's beautiful. And so that's one that's on that's there. And then we're doing Amanda Waller. Viola created this character, Amanda Waller, in the Suicide Squad movies. And so we're going to do an origin story with Max, 8 episodes, close in, top to bottom, where you get to learn who Amanda Waller was, where she came from, the Cabrini Green apartments, her family, all that stuff. So you get a backstory on how Amanda Waller became the boss of all these baddies. And so that's really exciting. So we got a lot of things coming up, and then developing some other things. So we're very, very active and very, very excited about everything that's coming up.
Yeah, I'm super excited too, and we'll make sure that our viewing and listening audience can keep up with the work that you're doing on social media and your website and all of that. Julius, I so appreciate you spending time with us today and sharing all of your wisdom. I wonder if you could just take a few minutes to share just another final piece of advice with maybe someone who's looking to bust into the entertainment world and they're wanting to make a difference, ensuring that voices that typically aren't heard or not heard enough get an opportunity to be showcased. What is some advice that you would give to someone who
My
desires to
my
follow?
big piece of advice is persist until you succeed.
Hmm.
Keep moving, put one foot in front of the other. Speak truth to power, always. Be true in your convictions. Know what it is that you want to do, how you want to do it, how you want to move. And then the last piece is when you're here and you're in any industry, even if it's not entertainment, find your tribe. Find people who have a like interest, people who, and then be around people who want to see you succeed. And if you do those things, then you can't help but have success. But you have to keep going because it's not an easy journey, but it's a worthy journey. If it's worthy to you and you're going to put the time into it, then it's a worthy journey because only you can decide when you can't go anymore and you need to do something different. But I say just keep going and keep persisting until you succeed.
Until you succeed. Julius, when all is said and done, what is it that you hope to be remembered for? What is the legacy that you want to leave?
You know, the legacy I want to leave is one of inspiration, of hope, of someone who was open, somebody who cared, um, somebody who was a visionary. You know, you could see things, and then you can birth them into existence. Recognizing good people, and just living a life of honesty, and and allowing God to be the North Star always. It's always about those simple things. God wants us to see, but He also wants us to keep these open and keep God in front of all those things. And when we do that in that simple way, then God just will bless your spirit and He washes over you so you can discern. It always becomes about discernment. What are you discerning in this situation, in that situation? Always to the good of yourself. Because if you can't be good to yourself and for yourself, you can't be good for your family or what it is you're trying to do. Always take your mental health and your heart in your own hands and move forward. Move forward. I'm just always about let's just go. It might be hard. The road's always been hard for us. It's not going to get easier in these days ahead. Stay focused. Keep moving. Be true to your convictions.
Hmm. Stay focused, keep moving, be true to your convictions. Very well said, Julius. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. It's been truly a blessing, and we will continue to pray for more success, expanded territory, more opportunities for you and the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it.